People everywhere are starting to listen to him. He's going on French, British, Italian, Japanese television.
This is the wide world of Weingarten.
Wide World of Weingarten, episode 12, Tuesday, October 26th. It's 12:30 in Los Angeles. I am getting ready for the World Series tonight, Game 1 in Houston. The Astros have Framber Valdez versus Charlie Morton for the Braves. Totals 8.5. Moved up from 8 overnight. I have no play on the side of the total for Game 1, but I do have a prop bet. Actually, two prop bets I made. The first one is Jorge Soler to hit a home run, 4-1 at DraftKings. Second one is first inning yes score, my favorite bet. Plus 100 is the number I bet it at. It's a play up to minus 105. I wouldn't go any further past that. If you wait until game time, I think you'll see a lot of better numbers, as I've said before, especially in the World Series. When you get higher volume and more eyes on the game, you get a lot more no betters, which means you get better prices on the yes. And if you wait till game time, you'll get the best price. So those are my two bets for the game. As far as the MVP market, I have a couple bets on MVP. My biggest one is Jorge Soler, 35-1 at DraftKings. I've seen 40-1 offshore, best number. I grabbed both. I'm happy to get Jorge Soler. I think he's going to be DH outfield to start the series in Houston, and we can reassess that position after the first two games. I don't think Eddie Rosario has much value at 12-1. I did see some 18-1 on Austin Riley that was interesting, but I'm trying not to scatter too many bets around the board. I'm trying to just focus on Jorge Soler for the Braves to start. As far as the Astros, whether you like Carlos Correa or not, and what do you think of him as a cheater, 11-1 is a great price on him to win World Series MVP if the Astros do manage to win the series. Luis Garcia, I've seen 30-1, I've seen 25-1, I think I've even seen 35-1. I bet 30-1. Those are the two guys on the Astros I like in terms of their odds. Obviously, Yordan Alvarez is the best and one of the best players in baseball, but at plus 850 or 10-1, I don't think there's a ton of value on him. One of the things to keep in mind with the Astros, and the reason I like their starting pitching, particularly Luis Garcia, who I mentioned yesterday, is that the Astros bullpen has pitched 57% of the Astros postseason innings, and that's just unsustainable. If you're going to win the World Series, you got to win it with starting pitching, and at the moment, Framber Valdez and Luis Garcia are the anchors in the Astros rotation. I wouldn't be opposed to betting either one of those guys, with Framber going first today. I just think Luis Garcia has the better numbers, and I was really impressed with how he pitched versus the Red Sox in Game 6. He had 5.2 shutout innings. He threw the hardest he'd thrown all season. The Astros have done a great job developing some of their rookie pitching lately, and just the fact that they're in the World Series with Framber Valdez and Luis Garcia anchoring that pitching staff is a testament to their ability to produce and develop pitchers, regardless of what you think of them as cheaters, or there's time to debate all that stuff, but you just can't argue with the quality of their pitching development, which cheating can't account for. So Luis Garcia is my pick there. I think if the votes were being held for awards now, he would likely be the AL Rookie of the Year after his performance in Game 6 versus the Red Sox. 30-1 is a better price than you would have ever gotten on him to win Rookie of the Year, unless you got it at the beginning of the season, when I don't think it existed because I had to request it. So yeah, I'll take some 30-1 on him here. If the Astros win, I won't feel bad if he cashes an MVP ticket. But as far as who's going to win the World Series and how many games and the series bets and stuff, I'm very light on this particular World Series. I just don't see a ton of value in either side. I did mention some Yordan Alvarez baseball cards yesterday. They're right behind me. Hold on while I grab them. So yeah, these two are going up on eBay for sale at some point today. They're two of the autochrome refractors. If you follow anything, sorry, I'm trying to get the best view, but I'm still not great at working with this camera. Yeah, it's an autograph. Jordan Alvarez, first chrome. I've seen them on eBay for $4,000 or $5,000. I doubt they're actually going to sell for anything around that. Like I mentioned yesterday, don't browse eBay by the price people think they're going to sell them for. You have to check the recently solds, which are always, easily 50% lower than the highest offers. But right now, if you have something like Jordan Alvarez cards, you have to sell them now when the market is this hot. Otherwise, you're just a collector, and the collection goes one way. The cards don't have any value if you just buy them and they sit on your shelf, and you're never gonna resell them. So, strike while the iron is hot, while the market has eyes. I put some cards up. We'll see if they get any traction. I'm really not expecting it, but I think I started the bid for both of them at like $5,000-6,000 or something, just to see what sort of nibbles I get. But again, I'm not expecting much. And truthfully, I would probably not watch this World Series other than the couple bets I have. It's for some reason my baseball betting, I like it when there's a lot of games. When it gets down to the end in the World Series, I'm like surprisingly uninterested in the game unless it's like a big future or something. So, I'm glad we got to the end of the season, and I had some of these some pennant futures lose this last week. I got no futures on the World Series, so I'm kind of in this holding pattern until we get to the awards week. I know I got an Ohtani ticket or 12 that are going to kind of balance out any potential losses from Soto and Franco and some of my other stuff. I know I'm alive to Rosarena for Rookie of the Year and John India for the NL, so a lot of stuff coming up. But for me, the World Series is mostly just to relax and maybe make a couple MVP bets. Onto the NFL stuff for today. The Bill Barnwell had an article about the Chiefs this week for ESPN. I highly recommend reading it. Bill Barnwell does a lot of the best NFL writing out there, and this article, he does a really good job breaking down the specific issues the Chiefs have, and a lot of it's stuff I've talked about before, mainly too many turnovers. I think they have 17 through 6 or 7 games, which is more than they had all of last season. Bad offensive line play. They replaced their entire starting offensive line after last season. It didn't matter. It's still bad. What else? They have a bad defense, lack of depth. The lack of depth issue with the Chiefs can basically be explained when you win a lot in the NFL and you continue to go to the Super Bowl. You have high draft picks. The higher your draft picks are, the less likely you are exponentially to find impact players, especially like even after something like the 16th pick in the first round, the odds of finding a Pro Bowl player drop precipitously, let alone the 31st or the 32nd pick every year. So the lack of depth and talent on the Chiefs is catching up to them, and that's just what happens when you have extended playoff runs. Guys get tired, there's no depth to replace them, there's bad defense, and now that's kind of what you're seeing with the Chiefs. They also happen to be playing an incredibly hard schedule this year, but they're fortunate in that they get an extra day of rest this week until they play on Monday night versus the Giants. They're 9.5-point favorites already, and if there's ever a spot to come out and blast a bad team, this would be it for the Chiefs. I'd be surprised if by Monday we don't see tweets and stuff from every bookie and every Caesars and Will Hill and everybody who gives info to David Purdom, and they're all going to say, we're lopsided on this game, the biggest of the year, 92% on the Chiefs, 95%, 98%. You can make up any number. That's probably what's going to be bet on the Chiefs this week. It's going to be all Chiefs money. The Packers cards on Thursday is interesting. You got the top tier, sort of the leader MVP with Kyler Murray versus the reigning MVP and a guy who's like still 10-1, Aaron Rodgers. They're on a 6-game win streak, the Packers, after losing week 1, and Rodgers after week 1 was 32-1 at circa for MVP. He's back down to like 10-1, kind of in that second tier with Brady and Stafford still. The Packers have some COVID issues, and Devontae Adams won't be playing, which moved the line 2 points from 4 to 6 on Monday. That's kind of a puzzling move to me, unless some other players are out or there's something else that's not being accounted for. But a wide receiver, even somebody of Devontae Adams caliber, being worth 2 points is kind of absurd to me. So Packers +6 is definitely on my radar. I just think I can wait closer to game time for that. Then I see the Rams are 14.5-point favorites on the road at Houston after closing +17 and losing against the spread versus the Lions, and what was probably the Lions, big game for the season. They showed up and played all their trick plays against the Rams and still lost. So, Lions are going home, play the Eagles this week. They're 3.5-point dogs with Gardner Minshew probably starting. But back to the Rams, it's a weird spot to be 14.5-point favorite on the road after being a 17-point favorite at home. I don't have a database anymore to tell you some of the trends that go into that. But I don't think I would necessarily lay 14.5 here with the Rams. I think team total under on the Texans is what I'm going to be looking at when that comes out later this week. It might be Tyrod Taylor play in this game. I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. Rams are just far more talented than the Texans, but I need to see some more numbers before I officially play that. So hold that off till later in the week too. I did find it interesting. The Rams traded one of their starting linebackers, Kenny Young, to the Broncos. He had a sack and 7 tackles on Sunday versus the Lions, and Monday ended up traded to the Broncos, which doesn't usually happen. You don't see trades like that in the NFL very often, but the Broncos have a depth issue at linebacker, and the Rams don't really value linebackers or offensive guards very highly, which is actually very correct in terms of NFL talent and depth management, all that stuff. Linebackers are easily replaceable. They got Troy Reader, who's an undrafted free agent, who'll step in. Ernest Jones was a 3rd-round pick from South Carolina this last year. He'll step in. They'll be fine. Linebackers can be replaced relatively easily. And I think the Rams, obviously, they have another trade in mind when they do stuff like this. Like they traded Marcus Peters last year. It opened up the spot for Jalen Ramsey. I would expect some sort of similar trade to be coming to the Rams before the trade deadline. I don't have any names in mind, but I'm just trying to kind of think like they do, and I would expect a potential outside linebacker / defensive end to be added via the trade market at the deadline. So keep that in mind. I think they realize they still need some more horses to compete with the Cardinals after getting blown out by them a couple weeks ago. As far as future stuff goes, the yes-no playoff market stuff I've been betting is on the move. The Chiefs yes-no are yes -200, no +155 now. So it's now an ARB with the earlier no prices from anywhere from 3-1 to 6-1 before the season. I expect the yes to jump a little higher, assuming they blow out the Giants on Monday night, but I'm not playing more no at +155 here. I'm just happy to be holding some nice tickets. The Patriots to miss the playoffs, I bet at -200. It's now -500 to the no and 350 yes at DraftKings, so got some value there. Bengals went from +200 yes before blowing out the Ravens this week to -200. So nothing I can really do with any of those tickets except hold them at this point, which I'm pretty happy about. But I think I got some nice tickets in that market. There wasn't anything new to add this week. As far as player awards, after having a chance to go through them, I mentioned yesterday Lamar Jackson's back to 25-1. If you missed earlier 25-1 this season, I think it's a good spot to potentially add them coming off the blowout loss to the Bengals. It still sounds weird to say. I might add a little bit more, 25-1 this week. I think it's still Lamar Jackson is still kind of underrated versus numbers versus the other quarterbacks, just maybe because he doesn't throw as many touchdowns as Tom Brady or whatever, but 25-1 is pretty high still. As far as offensive player of the year, or offensive rookie of the year, sorry, I'm doing offensive rookie of the year first. I think I'm finally going to cave today and bet Jamar Chase +110, at least cover. I have some bets on Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence and a little bit on Davis Mills because it was like 200-1, but I mean, I think it's been clear the market has been different than me for the last couple weeks, but I'm very ready to admit after the Bengals beat the Ravens this week and Chase had another 200 yards and an 85-yard touchdown reception that Chase is clearly head and shoulders above the rest of the class in terms of productivity, and you just can't really argue against it. I've mentioned many times I don't like wide receivers and running backs in this market, but it's just clear that Chase has surpassed the benchmarks, the A.J. Brown, the Justin Jefferson benchmarks that I use for rookie production. 1+110, I think it's probably about the last time we'll see a plus money price. If Chase doesn't win, the only other player at the moment I think is worth mentioning, Mac Jones, is the only of the rookie quarterbacks who consistently grades out by Pro Football Focus above 80. So I think Jones, I'm happy I have some like 8-1 on him from right when they cut Cam Newton, and I have some Trevor Lawrence 10-1. I think, if anybody else from the quarterbacks is gonna make a late run, it would probably be him, but I think the smart thing to do at this point for me would be to cover my potential loss with some Jamar Chase, or maybe play half of it or something. I'll figure that out, but I am going to play some Chase this week. As far as defensive rookie of the year, I think there's some cornerbacks worth like looking at their production, but I don't think the market is really going to be interested in them, let alone the voters. Odafe Owe, who I mentioned a couple times at higher odds, is down to 7.5-1. He has the second lowest odds. The only other guy under 10-1 besides him is Micah Parsons at 225 right now. I think Parsons, I understand why Parsons is that much lower than Owe, but it's probably going to be the two of them. I don't think it's too early to say Parsons is a lock or anything. But I could see Owe trailing, but it's nice to have a guy in second lowest odds already. A fun fact: I tried to bet Owe at 40-1 at Will Hill before the season. They rejected it and moved the odds. The only other time I tried to make a bet with Will Hill in the last year was Shohei Ohtani to win MVP, which they rejected and moved the odds as well. So I'm optimistic at least that history is going to repeat itself, and Owe is going to be a winner. At least I have a bunch of other tickets on that, but it's always disappointing when books do stuff like that and reject your bets. It's hard enough to get bets down as it is without doing the odds making $4 billion books, but that's just the way it is. Offensive player of the year, Derrick Henry is the favorite. Cooper Kupp is second. I think Henry is the voters' choice. I think if he keeps up his pace, it's likely not going to be close, especially when you consider historically receivers don't tend to win this award very often. I do think Jamar Chase would be my pick if I had to pick a receiver at 100-1. But I think Derrick Henry at plus 350 again is going to get some more of my money this week. Beyond that, I think Cooper Kupp is a legitimate offensive player of the year candidate, but you're better off betting him like 5-1 to have the most receiving yards in the NFL, as opposed to winning the offensive player of the year award, where Derrick Henry is the guy he's got to beat. Defensive player of the year, I'd continue to be short Myles Garrett here at plus 350. The Browns have the third highest odds to win the AFC North. I think a better bet would be to bet Garrett to lead the NFL in sacks at the same price, plus 350. He has a 2-sack lead over the field. I still think that Trevon Diggs is the guy, especially if he keeps up the interceptions. My money's on him at 20-1, around 18-1. He's like 5-1 now. I don't think I'd bet him at 5-1, but happy to hold those tickets. Then Coach of the Year, the biggest mover this week was Zach Taylor, 35-1, 10-1 at DraftKings BetMGM, which is still higher than Circa's price last week. I'm waiting for Circa's numbers to come out this week so I can kind of gauge their market because they seem to be more on the ball than everybody else this year. Taylor's still 10-1. If the Bengals make the playoffs, I think you obviously have to consider him a contender just by virtue of taking the Cincinnati Bengals to the playoffs. So if you miss 35-1, 10-1 is still acceptable. It's just not as good as 35-1. Kingsbury plus 750, also interesting, especially if they, go 14-3 or something like that. It's another one of the discrepancies. Last week at Circa, he was plus 230. He's still 750 at DraftKings. I expect Circa will open up with a much lower number than that. Circa also has new Heisman odds out today with a yes/no market on the favorites, Bryce Young, Matt Corral, and CJ Stroud. I think I'd lay minus 405 against Matt Corral. They're dogs. Ole Miss is dogs to 1.5 point dog to Auburn this week. Alabama's not going to be a dog to anybody except maybe Georgia in the title game. Ohio State's not going to be a dog to anybody. I just don't think Corral is going to get votes over two potential, playoff quarterbacks. And Ole Miss, like I've mentioned before, beating up on Austin Peay and Louisville and Tulane don't really move the needle for me. The fact that he's got to put up all that offense because they play track meets all the time doesn't really move the needle for me. Like Bryce Young, he's a freshman, but if you watch him play, it's clear to me that the talent is just levels above Matt Corral. Matt Corral is a great athlete, but Bryce Young, I'd be surprised if somebody overtakes him for Heisman. Then as far as golf goes, the field for the Bermuda event this week is currently at 127 players. It's one of the weakest PGA fields of the year. I think it's worth like 27 points to the winner in the official world golf rankings, so that's on the incredibly low end. Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Reed, Christian Benzuti-Hoot, Mito Pariah, who recently graduated from the Korn Ferry Tour, and Seamus Power, who was playing Monday qualifiers recently, are the top 5 on the board, with the highest being Power at 26-1. So I'm hoping that somebody from way off the bottom of the field can put up a big week. I mentioned I bet Grayson Sigg yesterday at 100-1. I bet John Pack today, a USC graduate, recently turned pro, at 225-1. Sigg is 77-1 and Pack's 130-1 at Circa. So, I grabbed some higher numbers there. And then Bookmaker is the other book that I use to compare odds with the market, with other books I can play at. Sig is 83.50 at Bookmaker. Pack is 101.54 at Bookmaker. Probably didn't take a ton of money to move them there, though. I'm guessing, it was maybe $500 max that moved either one of those numbers. Not even. Sig was probably like 200, I'm guessing. But yeah, right now getting some CLV versus Bookmaker versus Circa always feels good when you're holding some nice numbers in golf. Like I said, it's going to be a rotten week with a weak field. I still managed to find 2 bets early, so I'll be invested in it a little bit. Probably find some more stuff to bet before they tee off early. I'm guessing they're teeing off at like 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. on Thursday morning from Bermuda, but I got to check that at 3 a.m. Pacific time, obviously. But yeah, that's what I got this week so far. I'll look, see what's going on with the World Series after Game 1 tomorrow. We'll look at the Packers game for Thursday. A little more golf, maybe. Find some more bets. And yeah, more award stuff this week, hopefully. The NFL market's usually pretty robust throughout the season, so we'll see what's going on. But that's what I got going today. Middle of the week. We'll be back. Hope you enjoyed the episode.